teenager saw more than a bunch of dancing, shriveled grapes.
He saw a challenge and possibly a career. Ken Ackerman has his story.
Let's see. Grab about maybe 5.
Kevin MacLean took a liking to the California raisins. That was about 8 years ago. Now the Gresham High sophomore is doing some grape stuff himself.
I first started out, kind of copied Will Vinton, but I actually started making my own stuff.
Kreepers! What's up, you guys? It is Klearski. I am back, and today I am standing right in front of Gresham High School. That's right. This is actually my high school that I graduated from in 1999. And if you guys watched the last video, or the last vlog, we actually got a chance to meet Andy Stokes, who is an incredible musician, but he actually signed a California Raisin for me when we met. And the reason behind that was Andy actually voiced one of the original California Raisins back in 1988, which really got me thinking about Gresham and the connection to everything. So it brought me here today to Gresham High School because, in fact, back in 1997 is when I first met Kevin, but a former high school student of Gresham, I consider him my friend as well. We didn't really hang out much back then, but we've talked recently online about the good old Will Vinton days and what he did to basically start his career with Vinton Studios. So I wanted to take you guys back kind of to where it all started. Kevin and I actually went here to Gresham High School together, and I was in the arts program as well, but Kevin was avidly involved in the arts program here in school. And for many hours he would spend his days working. I think it was basically down in that area at the time. This is all brand new school here. They were able to keep the facades of the original school and stuff. So this is kind of where I wanted to start here, just because of the old school building. But in fact, I believe the arts department was down in one of these buildings down here, the newer side. But to make a short story long, or a long story short, Kevin worked very hard here and started his own creations, creating a bunch of claymation himself. And he was actually inspired by Will Vinton at a young age. I think at like 10 he said that he first started following the Raisins and the Noid and everything that I did as well. I was really into The Simpsons at that time, is when they first kind of came onto the airwaves, was 89, 90. So I was really involved. California Raisins, first and foremost, were my first love. But Kevin loved the Raisins so much that he actually, and claymation, that he actually was inspired to start doing his own claymation.
Then we cut to the fuzz on the screen. The screen fills with fuzz. The camera zooms out. And out of the fuzz, the eye appears, blinks, and there's the title.
Kevin has already won awards with his claymation and has even met the master. In fact, Will Vinton inspired one of Kevin's features.
The main idea of it was to sort of plugging into creativity. So we have Will Vinton, the caricature of him, undoing his head. So there's a plug there. He plugs into it.
It can take up to 1 month to create just 1 minute of finished product. Kevin spent about 15 minutes forming and shaping his clay figure for us, and this is what it looks like. The question for Kevin is not if he's going to make it, it's just when.
So like I said, Kevin loved claymation and started his own, claymation movie called Scared Stiff, and it was actually picked up for a Northwest, I think it was the Northwest film industry. I have to go back and I'll edit in exactly what it was called, but his video was picked up to be premiered with a bunch of other local artists, and he would also submit his work pretty much every year to Will Vinton Studios, which was located in Northwest Portland at the time. And for years he basically just kept perfecting his craft, and would call and basically, send information to Will Vinton Studios and explaining to them how much he loved you know, all the claymation and stuff, and how he was working on his own projects. And I believe he would basically call down there and talk with people. And one day, I believe he was at his home, or maybe he even called. Kevin, if you do end up watching this, make sure you chime in and correct me on anything that I've flubbed up. It's been, you know, a good 24 years. But basically he got the call saying, hey, come on down. We've looked at your work. We've looked at your portfolio, and, you know, maybe even watched his Scared Stiff movie, and which was a take on, well, I'll just leave links to it. You guys can watch it yourselves. It's kind of interesting what you would take from it. But yeah, it's just a really cool connection to Gresham. And I believe, like I said at the time, this is still I believe it's like the drama department, but right through these doors on the opposite side is where the movie, I believe, would have been, you know, premiered. And at the time, these are newer doors, but the older style doors down here, like where we started out on, I actually remember being parked right out along here, or maybe over here, and I specifically remember coming out of the doors, going across the street to my car, getting in and looking over and noticing on the fronts of actually one of these old school doors, which I'll show you guys in a second, the flyer. And it was like, you know, the claymation style that he would do. And I was just really, you know, I was curious as to what that was about. You know, I knew a lot about claymation and was, you know, into art as myself as well. And I remember basically seeing on one of these old school doors here, as they have the flyers posted here now, his actual flyer for the movie was posted right on these doors. And I believe it was this door right here. I was standing right across the street, right about there in my Bug parked, and I looked right across the street and noticed his flyer. So I came up to read it, and I was like, hey, I think I know him. And so next we're gonna go up to where all this kind of started. A lot of this stuff was, you know, filmed here and worked on here, but Kevin also's house that he grew up in is just right down the street. So we're gonna go there next and talk a little bit more about some other works that he has done over the years. And I also was going to insert a few clips of the Claymation Kid. That's what they dubbed him back in 96, 97. I kind of knew him as the Will Vinton Kid, or just Kevin. But we're gonna go up to his childhood home now and talk a little bit more. Born May 1st of 1979. He just recently won an Oscar, I see here, for Frozen. In 2003 for working with DreamWorks Animation with in collaboration with Disney Studios for Frozen. And he also worked on, let's see, he worked on Harry Selick's film Monkey Bone and spent almost 10 years at DreamWorks Animation. And in 2011, Kevin came back to Portland to work on Laika's Paranorman, I'm sorry. That is so cool. Kevin also helped work on The PJs starring Eddie Murphy. Guys, so we're getting close to his childhood home, and obviously, as always, I want to be respectful and not get onto anybody's property, obviously. But like I said, KATU, I think channel 8, 6, all of them really back in the day, came here.
Laurel and Joe, the age-old question, what are you going to do when you grow up? Tonight, meet a guy who knew exactly what he wanted to do when he was just a kid. You might say he molded himself into a career in animation that's paying off big time. You've probably seen Kevin MacLean's work.
Terry, where are we?
He's a sculptor and animator.
My job is just bringing characters to life.
Kevin's been bringing life to characters using clay since childhood.
Ever since probably I was 10 or 11, I knew I wanted to be an animator.
He learned by doing it, frame by frame.
My high school also had equipment that I was able to use and just make my own films.
One of his first films, Scared Stiff. His efforts paid off with a job at Portland's Vinton Studios, helping to create the national TV show, The PJs.
Now, aren't you going to hit me with your tractor beam?
And a feature film. And commercials, from the Pillsbury Doughboy to a singing glove.
Whoa, 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 whoa!
In It wasn't long before Kevin's work drew attention from outside of Portland.
Out of the blue, I got this call from a recruiter, and they wanted me to fly down for an interview.
That interview would be in Hollywood, DreamWorks Studios, Steven Spielberg's company. At first, Kevin wasn't sure he should go. He was encouraged by his fellow animators at Vinton Studios.
He was amazingly talented from a really young age, and it was he was born to do this. It's almost in his blood.
But Kevin still had doubts.
It's just sort of stressful thinking about it, having to decide, if they offer me a job, like what I would do.
They did. He accepted. Now he must get animated, packing up and taking his characters on another adventure.
It just turned out to be too good of an opportunity to, work on possibly several feature films.
And this would be the home that Kevin grew up in right here. And inside those walls and inside some of those doors is where he would have done all of his claymation and artwork. God, that is so cool that he's that close to the school and everything. And then with Vinton Studios just being in Northwest. But right inside those windows, and I believe a shot even inside the kitchen that I found actually on his YouTube channel called Claymation Kid, all one word. He has entered some photographs of him over the years. Well, not over the years, but he's inserted some YouTube videos that he uploaded over the years of some of the newscasts and some of the things that happen right inside this house. But that's basically it, you guys. That's Kevin's childhood house where all the claymation went down, and then went on to, work for DreamWorks, win an Oscar with Frozen. And just imagine that, all those years later, he went on to work for such great people, kind of all starting out here in Portland, Oregon. Will Vinton Studios, the guys that created the Claymation California Raisins, the Noid, the Pillsbury Doughboy. I mean, I could go on. And in fact, Kevin actually worked hand in hand. I think it was back in 2016. And obviously, Kevin, if you're watching, make sure you guys correct me. But he actually designed the little puppet mitt for Arby's. So they were working a lot with the, computer animation as well as incorporating the claymation and stuff. So, but here's his childhood home, you guys. That is just so cool to me that he's, from Gresham and has done so much and worked on such of my favorite movies, Paranorman. We had a chance to visit Leica Studios. We went up and did some old Will Vinton vlogs, so make sure you guys go back and check those out as well. But that is so cool, Kevin, and I hope you do tune in and see this. Here's your old house, buddy. Kind of where it all started.
Kevin MacLean's bedroom is not typical for a teenager. First of all, it's far too neat. Second, there are all these characters on the shelves. Or should we call them actors? Kevin is a sculptor, and he's a filmmaker. This is his latest effort, Scared Stiff.
It's about a corpse that comes back to life accidentally. When it falls out the back of a funeral van, and he's lonely, so he befriends his undertaker, who is scared stiff because of that.
The work takes the patience you wouldn't expect from an 18-year-old. A character can take 10 to 12 hours of sculpting. Then you shoot a frame of film, and move the character, and shoot another frame. Here's a script from one of Kevin's productions, including how a single word spoken by a clay figure can take up to several frames. It's for a car commercial he did for a pretty famous local dealer.
With financing to anyone the law allows.
This never aired. It was a high school project. But Kevin's been making short movies since he was 10.
I didn't start doing clay until 6th grade. I think the reason I started that is because I could never find actors other than my sister for my movies. So with clay animation, I can always just make the characters.
And a lot cheaper to pay than actors.
Yeah, they don't complain either.
And there are few complaints when you watch Kevin MacLean's work. He's been bugging the folks at Will Vinton Studios for a job. He's even sent his work to a similar production company in England. It's probably only a matter of time before this teenage hobby molds itself into an entertainment career.
That's going to do it for today. If you guys are new here, make sure you hit that red subscribe button. You can ring that bell. That way when I creep, you guys will be the first to creep. If you did enjoy this vlog, give it a thumbs up. Creeper out for now.